Hey everyone, my name is Eli. I'm one of the projects directors for Night Hacks this year. The other director is Suneet, who I think is actually here now. Are you here yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. That's Suneet. We'll introduce ourselves a little bit in just a second. Well, actually, right now we'll do that. So I am a junior at UCF. I'm a CS major and a math minor. I did the projects program in the spring, this past spring. And favorite hobbies, just for some, random information. I am a tennis player. I like all racket sports except racquetball. Racquetball can go die in a hole. And my favorite food is grapes. And Steve, why don't you go ahead?
So I am also a CS major. In terms of Night Hacks, I am one of the Night Hacks mobile developers, and I'm the lead of the Discord team. Some of my favorite hobbies are exercising and programming, and my favorite type of food, I guess, is chocolate.
All right. Oh, all right. So I know a lot of you were probably at the kickoff meeting or have watched the recording of the kickoff meeting that we had last week, and we hope that that is the case at least. But just in case some of you are new or have joined Night Hacks late, I'm going to go over a very short amount of that information before we get to the new stuff. So the projects program, for anyone who doesn't know, is a one semester long hackathon-esque project that you develop in a team of 3 to 4 people. The teams we're going to assign starting next week once everyone signs up for the program and expresses their interests. And we're going to try and center it around a project idea that you select as being interested in, and also try and make sure that we have a good balance of experience on all of the teams. We will also have an option on the forum that I will talk about later on to pair with anyone who you want to work with if you have a friend that also wants to take part in the program, or if you've already connected with someone about one of the project ideas and you guys definitely want to work on the same thing, then you can put that in the forum. So we will honor those requests as much as possible. Some of the other things that we're aiming for with this program is to allow everyone to learn new languages, frameworks, or tools when you're developing your project. Part of the reason why this is hackathon-esque is because you have so much time to come up with your project that we want you to pick up some new skills, new things that you can put on a resume, things that you can talk about to people. If you exclusively work on something that you already know how to do, then you're doing it wrong. So you don't necessarily have to try a language that you don't know. If you're already comfortable with something and want to develop your skills in there, that would be great. But you definitely want to try and push some boundaries over the course of the semester to make sure that you're learning and you have some new skills to put on your resume. One other thing that we're trying to do this semester is that we're trying to have weekly check-ins in person with each group, unless your team is unavailable, in which case we will make other arrangements. Some of the reason why we're doing that is because we want to make sure that your team knows where you guys are going with your project and also is still on track with what's realistic. And having extra opinions, it never really hurts. So we will try to do those meetings in person. More information about that will be up very shortly. And at the end of the semester, ideally, your idea would be brought to completion or relative completion. It's very possible that all of the goals that you set at the beginning of the semester will not be achieved, which is fine. It leaves you with some other things you can work on after the semester finishes. And at the very end, we'll have a showcase for all of Night Hacks, which may or may not be at the last general body meeting. I think that's what we did in the spring, but we haven't planned that far ahead yet. And you'll be able to present in front of other Night Hacks to show off your project and get some presentation skills. And again, the important thing here is that you have a project that you can put onto your resume. And I think that pretty much I've already covered everything that was on this slide already. The reason why you would want to do this is your learning strategies and tools for working as a team. There's a lot of things that when you're working on personal projects for classes, you don't necessarily get a lot of chance to learn. Just from personal experience, I've used version control with GitHub for several years now, but the extent of my knowledge was getting it up and getting it down. And if that failed, I just deleted the repository and started over. Working as a team, you can't do that. There's a lot of intricacies for working with version control or managing your team environment that you don't really get to learn just working on school projects. And that's something that you'll hopefully be able to pick up over the course of the program. Again, you'll learn new languages and frameworks, new platforms, anything that you want to target that you haven't done before is encouraged. working on presentation skills, developing good coding habits and standards for working in teams. That's another thing that I definitely picked up on in the spring when I was working on this. Again, when it's your project, there's no standards. It's just whatever you want to write. But when you're working with other people, trying to coordinate, make sure that everyone is using the same standards is something that's pretty important for making sure that you make good progress. And then finally, again, build up your resume, have something to talk to employers about. If you go into an interview, they may be able to ask you questions about something on your resume, and you'll have lots of options that you can put on there depending on what kind of skills they're looking for. All right, so these are some expectations. I think this is also kind of old information, so I'll try and run through this pretty quickly, but this is definitely pretty important. In order to participate in this program, you do need to be a dues paying member. So as Harold was saying, go to the link tree, sign up and pay your dues. It's $10 for the year. You get a t-shirt out of it. It's well worth $10. And if you're signed up, you will be allowed to participate in this. So make sure you do that before next Monday, which is when we're going to close form signups. As long as you're a member when we're reviewing and putting teams together, that's all that matters. And teams are going to be required to meet at least once a week, ideally in the time slot that we've designated on Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Something that we're trying to do, which is an idea that is completely experimental and may or may not be worth pursuing long-term, is we're trying to have a 4-hour time block on Fridays where it's just a general Night Hacks collaboration. And in that 4-hour time block from 1 to 5, we would like the project teams to meet in the first half for 2 hours whenever your team can make it. So you don't have to stay the whole time. It would be nice to meet for at least an hour, but if your team doesn't need to be there for an hour, then we're not going to force you to be there. And the room will be available to stay until 5 if you want to stay and work, or if you want to talk to other Night Hacks members or get some extra opinions. We're going to go around and check in individually with each group whenever you're present. So if your team doesn't show up until 2 p.m., that's fine. We'll come talk to you guys as soon as we can. And we'll talk about any updates from our side for the program, have a group discussion about progress and identify any needs or roadblocks. So if you have anything that you need from us, this is the time to tell us. If you have anything that you're stuck on, we can potentially try and find someone that can help you solve that problem. And then also, if you have any resources that you've discovered that you want to share with the rest of the program, that's also a great time to share resources with us, and we'll share resources with you in turn. As I was saying, the space is going to be open for all 4 hours to any Night Hacks members to come hang out. I have no idea how popular this is going to be. We're going to try it for a couple of weeks and make modifications as needed. The goal here is to have a large number of people with a large number of skill sets in the same room so that we can talk to each other, get work done, but also help collaborate. So if I have a problem with some language that I'm not familiar with, I can go try and find someone who has more experience, can maybe offer some advice. Groups may or may not be able to answer questions about specific technologies. It's entirely random who's going to be there, depending on who is interested. Ideally, we would like to be able to have some dev team members there. They're generally the most knowledgeable group in Night Hacks, and we are not opening it to specifically dev. It may be even more than that. And if your team or you specifically can't meet from 1 to 5, from 1 to 3, that is totally fine. We will find another time to meet with you. We can do it either virtually or in person, whenever the schedules align. We'll work with you guys on that when we come up with teams and make sure that everyone's got a meeting time for at least an hour during the week. All right, so this is a semester timeline. I will pass it off to Suneet to cover the back half of the slides, and then we'll do proposal reviews at the very end.
Okay, so obviously today we're gonna start our signups, and then on Monday we will that'll be the deadline for the signup. So everything will be submitted by then, and then we hope by Wednesday all the teams will be formed. In addition to the teams being formed, in our Night Hacks Discord, we're gonna have different channels for each of the teams, so everyone can talk in their own channels. Then that Friday, we're going to have our first weekly meeting. So one of the first repeating meetings that we have. And basically, we're going to talk about like the ideas you have, or what technologies you're going to be using, and also the any announcements we have or any help anyone else needs, we can help during this period of time. So by October 8th, the semester plan is due. Basically, we want some sort of not a full-on prototype, but like a design and a kind of a good idea of what you want to get done and the time frame that you want to, the time frame you're planning on getting everything done with. And then finally, by the end of November, you're going to have a showcase where you show off your project that you completed. And sorry. And we'll make sure that this showcase doesn't run into your finals, so you don't have to worry about that. And then beyond these dates, you can keep working on your project. You know, there's no one preventing you from continuing your project if you feel like you want to keep working on it after the project's program is over. So you can just keep working on it, especially if it's open source. People can just start contributing and stuff like that. So a lot of times we get asked what types of projects we want to do. So here are some few examples. So we are open to people using hardware to for the project. An example of hardware in this case would be Raspberry Pi or a Snapdragon, basically single board computers, and to like integrate with those single board computers and make something that integrates with that hardware. So we would like people who are interested in the hardware to let us know by at least tonight, so we can make the proper adjustments to get the hardware out that people will want to use in their projects.
Actually, sorry, really quick. Could we, if you have any interest in doing something hardware related, not necessarily you have to commit to it, please just like react with raise your hand in the participants tab or something like that. Just so we can get a head count, if that's possible.
Eli, do you want to do a poll instead?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, we'll do a poll really quick.
Though, is it anonymous?
I don't think, I have no idea. I've never actually made a poll. I think as long as we have a number, that's all we really need.
Okay.
So let me just make that really quick for you guys. Okay, so that should be launched. Please just yes or no if you have literally any interest in doing something like this. Click yes. Just so that we can get an idea of how many units we may or may not need to order. If you are leaning towards doing something software, I would lean towards no, but if you do want to do something hardware, go ahead and click yes. Sorry, did someone have a question?
Well, I just want to quickly mention, I'm not sure if Eli, Sunny, you guys want to throw in suggestions as to what the hardware is, but if anyone knows like what type of hardware they would like, they can put that in the chat. Because we're just trying to assess whether or not we have the capabilities to actually get you guys some hardware to work with. But of course we need to, it's a little hard to know exactly what we're getting. So if anyone like knows off the top of their head, like, oh, I would love this thing that's like, you know, we can easily get for you guys, that's definitely something we can do.
Okay, could you record anything that you see posted in the chat on a document, maybe Harold?
It gets sent.
You want me to do that?
It gets sent to you as a TXT file at the end of the meeting. It gets sent to the host.
Oh, the chat does. Oh, sweet.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Looks like we have, I don't know what this poll is telling me actually. All right, we got 63 out of 70. I'm gonna give everyone one more minute just to fill that in.
To clarify a question asked, no one is required to work on hardware. We were just asking who would be interested in kind of working on some hardware. So you can choose like just fully software, fully hardware, a mix of both. You know, that is the free, like your freedom. But whether or not we actually provide the hardware is TBD.
All right, 67 out of 71. Closing the poll in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. All right, sharing the results. So it looks like we have about 25 people, if I'm reading that correctly, that would be interested in doing something like that. again, if you have anything that you're thinking about that might be interesting, any devices, as Suneet was mentioning, Raspberry Pis or anything like that, just put that in the chat, and we will regroup tonight and try and allocate a budget for that as necessary. All right. Thank you, Suneet. You're welcome to go back ahead. Presentation, I think. Did I close it? What did I do?
No, this is the right slide.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so after that, any software project is acceptable and encouraged. We don't really have too many strict rules on which kind of ideas are you want to implement. So, don't be afraid to be creative. We encourage you to be creative. So the teams will be formed around interests, but the ideas maybe change or modified as much as your team wants. So it's not uncommon to see when you start on a project, especially a software project, you'll get to a certain point and sometimes you realize your scope is too big, or sometimes it's even too small, and you either want to expand or reduce your scope, which basically means you want to add more features or remove some more features just so you can get the project done on time. And so your idea might be a little bit modified by the time you go through the entire process. And this can be a team decision, or we can help you make that decision. So we are in talks with other computer science organizations to have them do sponsored projects. And basically what sponsored projects are is the other CS organizations will come to us and say, hey, it'd be really nice if you could get someone on a team that implemented this for us. And so they'll basically ask to have all of you all implement something. And then we'll put that under the category of sponsored projects. And of course, we'll try to assign people to those projects if they're interested in working on those sponsored projects. Okay. So,
all right. Oh,
okay.
No, go ahead.
Is this your slide or my slide?
I'll just run through it since I have the proposals up here, and this is pretty much the end of the meeting.
Okay.
So we're going to transition for the next couple minutes into proposal sharing. So I don't know how many of you guys have taken a look at the repository that we submitted. I have 9 submissions, so I would assume most of you have not, which is totally fine. And we have a couple of ideas that some of your other peers have come up with, and we're going to give a very quick Q&A style sharing of the ideas that have already been presented. And then after that, I will run through the form that we're about to release, just to let you guys know what's on the form and what we expect in those specific slots. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run through each of the ideas that we have currently posted. Whoever creates the idea may or may not come up to share their idea. I think a couple of people marked that they did not want to present, which is totally fine. So I will present for them. And then some of the other people did ask to present. So we're going to review the idea itself and then any suggestions that got posted. And then we're going to have a short time for Q&A if anyone has any questions about the proposal or any suggestions. That would be the time to do it. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this, and I think I need to, actually I should be sharing the whole page. Can everyone see this GitHub repository, no problem? Or do I need to reshare?
No, it looks good. The only thing I would do was I would zoom in a bit. It's a little zoomed out.
That's a good point. All right, we will zoom on in here. So we have 9 issues, which is the same thing that I checked last time. So we're gonna start from the bottom and go to the top. All right, so this was Enrique's idea. Are you still good to present this one?
Yeah, I can present it. I mean, the basic of what I'm trying to achieve here is, as you discussed in the meeting there. One is we can develop 2 strategies. One is for day trading, and the other one is for swing trading. So, for those not familiar with the stock market, it's not really a requirement. It's something I'm familiar with it and strategies. It's just a matter of coming up with a program One, it will be analyzing different type of stocks and determining whether they're gonna move either up or down that day, and keeping track of those stocks as a way to develop a strategy that's either successful or unsuccessful. So this semester, since it's a long project to be able to do, it will just simply, this semester will just simply be creating an analysis for different stocks. And depending on how that goes, different phases will eventually lead to us implementing a program that allows us to invest in the stock market without having to physically be present, looking at a screen, just simply, monitoring as you go throughout the day. But for the most part, it's just implementing that strategy based on the confidence level of the strategy. But right now, the proposal is just creating an analysis of different stocks. Eli actually has a program where he did it during a hack attack where different stocks are presented based on how much popularity it has on a program like Reddit. So ours would be more of a rating program, and then improving on what he has. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Okay, thank you. So some of the suggestions that we put down here for this project is there were a couple of focuses of the project for doing data analysis on the stock trends, and then presenting that information as part of like a web app or maybe a mobile app or something like that. And then we talked about the potential for getting actual trading maybe pushed to another semester. And then I think that was pretty much it. So if anyone has any questions right here for anything that's on the proposal or anything for Enrique directly, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. All right. All right, great. So if you have any questions or anything that you come up with for questions after we move on to another proposal, feel free to just put it in the chat. We can revisit, no problem. Okay, so that was our first one. So the second idea is one of several by Conroy. Conroy, are you here? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. So in that case, I will go ahead and present his ideas that he's come up with. Okay, so the first idea, I think there's 4 that he presented, is a mobile app to combine a stock and a cryptocurrency portfolio into one place, and having it track prices of stocks and crypto in those specific portfolios. A couple of ideas that I think were suggested here were trying to figure out what would make this idea different, and then if there's any functions that this service might have that other apps don't. So the response to that was that typically from his experience, he's worked with lots of apps that exclusively handle stocks and lots of apps that exclusively handle cryptocurrency. And putting it into one app to have that combined information in one place would be useful for having someone managing all of their money in one place. So there weren't a whole lot of other features involved here. I'm sure there would be lots of things that would be required for brainstorming if you wanted to sign on to this project. That's something that we'll do next week, starting on the Friday meeting. All right, I will move on to the next one. All right, so this was another idea that Conroy had presented that we talked about. So this idea is a workout app that lets you create templates for your workouts and add exercises to those templates, and then add a certain number of sets and reps for each exercise, and use a timer built into the app in order to complete that. And then we can view history of previous workouts and progress over time. A couple of suggestions that I think I put in here were additional things that we could put in the workout log. Ideally, it would be able to put time and the information about the workout itself, but it might be interesting to also include some long-term breakdowns that show your progress rather than having to personally scroll through the history. So another thing that could potentially happen if it gets to the point of where there's enough time to develop a social feature, it'd be fun to be able to export either some of the analyses or some of the specific workouts that you've done, that kind of thing. So I think that covers everything here. History log was show personal records and a record of the time for each workout. Yeah, so that pretty much covers everything. I'm going to answer a couple questions that I just saw got posted in chat really quick. So from Jason, he asked, are we allowed to choose our own groups or will we have to be assigned? If you have people that you want to work with, we will absolutely honor that request if you put it onto the form that we're going to release. Otherwise, the way that we have it currently set up is we're going to have you pick a lot of selections for project ideas that have been presented that you would be interested in. And you can also pick if you're not interested in any of them or if you don't have a preference. And we'll be able to rank your top 2 choices if you have any. And based on that information, we will try to assign you teams. If you have anyone specifically that you want to work with, you will have that option though. And a couple of people mentioned that this is a good idea, which I completely agree with. And then another question from Eric is, my friend and I are relatively beginners. Are there any projects specifically tailored to newer programmers? And that's a big question. So from what I've seen in the project proposals, I don't think that anyone has suggested anything that would necessarily be targeted at beginners, which is not an inhibitor for you choosing any of these projects. If you get put onto a team with one of these projects, we will try to balance so that a team is not made up of people that are completely new to programming, and it's not made up of people that know exactly what they're doing and are hogging the experience bank. So we will try to balance the teams as much as possible. Please don't let your inexperience be a reason why you don't sign up for one of these. Any team will be able to find a way for you to contribute. And if you don't like any of these ideas or you think they're too complex, we can put you on a new team and you guys can come up with an idea that might be more in your wheelhouse. That's another thing actually that I should put on the form, which I will do before we release it. And last question from Ahmad. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add on to that question. Yeah, I agree with everything Eli was saying. And I just wanted to say, from my personal experience from working with people who are more experienced at a certain topic than me, I feel like I learned a lot just by being around those people who knew more than me. So you definitely shouldn't be afraid if you don't know as much as your teammates or something like that to apply for these projects. It could be a really good learning experience for you.
I'll also
Absolutely.
second that. I'll also second that. So I guess I'm thirding that. So to third that, I'll say this, like we've said, this program is meant to be kind of like a semester long hackathon. So really, you have a lot of flexibility with the types of projects you can do. So like Eli mentioned, don't let your experience affect whether or not you participate in the program, because we will find something, or you will find something that is best for you and your team. So if you haven't been part of a hackathon before, this can really kind of help you build the idea building, which is a really important part of hackathons. So overall, I just do not be afraid of this program. This is going to be great. Don't worry.
Okay. And then 2 more questions really quick before we move on to the next one. Ahmad asked, what is the min team size? I don't think there's a hard minimum. We're going to try and get at least 3 people on each team. 3 to 4 people, much more than that, and you run the risk of people not having enough work to do. And less than that, you have to limit the scope of the project a lot. And then Joshua asked, would we be able to prioritize the ideas we want to work on? Yes, that is part of the form. We are giving you options to prioritize which ones you would be willing to work on, and then your top 2 favorites from that subset. And I will go over that in a second. I have the form up, and that's the last thing we're going to do in the meeting. Okay. Moving on, so that was idea number 3. So the next one was a weight tracker, which was also suggested by Conroy. So this app, what he originally suggested was a simple app that would allow you to input and track your weight changes over time. It can analyze trends over months and weeks and allow users to set goals and benchmarks. And potentially, this is entirely unprecedented, but it might be interesting to try and work with a team if a team ends up getting formed around the workout app to try and integrate the information from both, which it doesn't have to happen, but it's just an extra idea that might be interesting. From a couple of suggestions that I had down here, beyond just inter-team integration. People generally like to keep track of their weight loss number in their head, which with this app as it is, if you just put in your weight, it may or may not be enough to make people want to use the app. So some other things that we could potentially put into this app would be other statistics. So people generally like to track their weight loss through caloric intake and minimizing their caloric intake. And there's lots of apps that can do that. But if you integrated that, that would be another really good thing. You could also just make it sort of a general body measurement tool. So if you're worried about blood sugar levels, you could also have a section for that. And it would analyze trends to make sure that you're healthy, and you can set bounds for what's healthy and what's not. That way the information is there for you, and you can share that with anyone who's helping you, or a doctor or something like that. And I think that's pretty much everything that was suggested here. So automatic evaluations, boundaries and caps, analyses, maybe some other different measurements. I think that would be a pretty good project for a whole semester if someone's interested in making a mobile app. This one definitely seems like it would be more tailored towards a mobile app just for accessibility. We got another question from Ahmad. If we have ideas but didn't want to post it, could we join a group and then brainstorm, or does the group have to be formed around an idea that's already posted? No, a group does not have to be formed around an idea that's posted. In the application, which I will go over again in a second, there will be a slot for if you have another idea that you want to upload that wasn't already posted, you can put that into the form so that we can see it. If you don't have an idea, but you don't like any of the ones here, there will be an option to select that, and then we can just put you into a team and you can come up with your own project idea. You'll just have a little bit less time over the whole semester to work because you'll have to spend that extra time. And then Eric had a question, but I guess I just answered it. So awesome. Great, on to the next one. Where am I going? Good issues. Actually, I'll just open them up in new tabs. That would be smart. I'm a computer scientist. All right. So another suggestion by Conroy. He wanted to create an app that would let you track and manage expenses, bills, set a budget, set financial goals or milestones. I think I agree with him that it would definitely be good to put this as a web app so that it can be brought up on a computer or on a smartphone. He suggested a lot of things like being able to track account balances and credit card accounts and brokerage accounts, which I think is going to be very challenging. I don't know if you can necessarily, I honestly have no idea if there's APIs that can necessarily, let you get that information automatically. So it might or might not end up being something that would be user input, which would be fine. He also suggested having some breakdowns and analyses for how the user's money is being spent on different categories, so that they can see how much of their income is remaining or what's going to what area. Both suggestions we had, Suneet asked which technology you would use for the mobile app, and whether it would have a backend or just be the mobile app. And that the reason why we suggested this was because it seems like one other thing that you could potentially add in here is have the ability to create a user account and have all the information stored as your user somewhere on the backend, so like somewhere stored in the cloud. And that way you could potentially have different accounts for different family members that all link together, so everyone's working on the same budget dashboard or so. That would be another thing that would be a pretty big challenge, but it would definitely enhance the way that this application is used quite a bit. And I think that's pretty much everything that we covered. We talked about the back end, and we also talked about the APIs to potentially do this automatically. So that would be something that would be worth considering if you end up wanting to pursue this project. Your team can discuss that next week and come up with other ideas. No new questions. Again, if you have any questions about any of these things, just put them in the chat. I will answer as much as possible. The next one was a playlist app that was suggested by Aaron. Aaron, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Is it okay if you pull up my slides, or should I share my screen? I can keep
Yes.
this really brief.
There's no link on here. Oh, there is a link on here. Okay, I'll just pull up your slides then.
Okay.
So make it a little easier.
Just a very few slides. All
No
right, so
problem.
my NightHacks project proposal is pick up playlist, and it's a YouTube playlist management and discovery system. Quick background on myself: I'm a master's student here at for computer science, but this is my first year participating in the NightHacks organization. It's exciting. So the big idea is
Oh,
we're going to
sorry.
construct playlists from tags. So, and the overarching idea is the user provides videos or playlists of videos, and our service will generate tags using natural language processing, and the user can explore new playlists based on those tags. I can go into a little bit more detail on the next slide. So some ideas for features. One phase is learning. So using natural language processing on video captions to generate tags. So this is kind of ideal for either like if it's a song that includes like lyrics, so there will be captions generated about songs, or for podcasts where there's a lot of speaking. And another feature would be a discovery. So users can explore generated playlists based on the tags that they have associated with their account. And third, like a stretch goal or like a nice to have goal would be a social aspect to our service. So keep track of the tags that interest you and that interest other people. We can move on to the next slide. So I just wanted to answer like what kind of like people, what kind of users this would be targeted towards. So one idea I came up with was self-learners, like people who follow playlists of maybe like a university course or some kind of tutorial course where there's multiple videos. So you can take an entire playlist, pull the captions, do some processing on that, generate some tags, and find similar things. As I mentioned, podcast listeners also, there's a lot of speech, and captions could be automatically generated by YouTube, and we can do some processing on that, generate some tags, summarization. I also mentioned music. And one final ideal user would be consumers. So if you see someone's product review, or you could find a way to make a playlist of other people's opinions on that product. All right, next slide. And my last big thing is implementation ideas. How will we get this done? So I was thinking about using YouTube Data API to pull captions from videos. We were looking at different kinds of summarizations using BERT, which is a transformer model that's used in natural language processing. GPT-3 is also another type of transformer model, if anyone's familiar with that. And then for the web app side, I was thinking about using MERNStack, and for deploying, I was thinking about using Heroku. So those are just some initial ideas. And then this is just some of my contact information, how to reach me. And I mostly want to use this as like a learning experience. I'm not familiar with 100% of these technologies, and I want to have fun with this semester and meet some good people. That's it.
Eli, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am muted. Thank you. Just a reminder, there's a link to this set of PDFs on the issue on the repo if anyone wants to go back to it. Anyone have any questions for Aaron while we're here?
I have a question. So like,
Okay.
what kind of level do you expect your teammates to be at with this project?
Some of this stuff is new to me too. I think we can use this as an opportunity to learn a lot of this stuff. My background is a little bit in machine learning with computer vision, natural language processing. So I'm not very strong in web development. So I think some of the other members of this organization would be strong in that area, but maybe not know so much about machine learning. So I think we could all start at you could be beginners. You always don't want to be the smartest person in the room. What everyone mentioned earlier. You want to use your peers and as a way to elevate yourself. So it could be any level of experience.
Okay. And like, how do I sign up to be a part of a project?
I think
We are going over that shortly. Hold on just a second.
Oh, and I'm sorry, just one more question. So is this like, this is not a music app, right? It's not like Spotify you're doing.
It's a discovery app. So you're discovering other YouTube videos based on the videos that you input into the website.
Like based on what reference? Like
based on the captions. So it's an opportunity to play around with the YouTube API. It's an opportunity to look at machine learning, and it's an opportunity for web development. So I just wanted to find something interesting with different areas, but not be overly ambitious or specific.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right. Sounds great. Any other questions? Please just put them in the chat and we're gonna move on to try and get this done by 7:30, hopefully. I think we have two more on here that were posted. So this one was posted by Jacob and I will go ahead and present this for him.
Oh wait, no, I'm here. Sorry, I picked the.
Oh.
Yeah, I put no, but I changed my mind now.
Okay.
So the basic idea, really, I'm really neurotic and bad at studying, but the basic idea is to have some sort of extension that can detect, studying apps or things like maybe Chegg, Quizlet. I saw your comment. I'll address that in a second. And kind of react to it and give you points on an experience bar, kind of like Pokemon, like if you're playing Pokemon. And through benchmarks or achievements, you maybe get like a cool title. You maybe get like a sprite that maybe walks across your screen. I saw that's the basic idea, the bones of it. I saw that, yeah, gotta study them all. I saw that Eli asked, what, other than leveling up, why does it matter? It's kind of like all video games in that it never matters. It's kind of just, you do it. Like I've grinded Monster Hunter. No real world. There's absolutely no real world benefits to it. I just love doing it. And it's kind of just something to have in the background, kind of to look at, and you're like, oh, cool, I studied a lot today. But I'm very open to like having a leaderboard that you can have exclusively to a couple friends, not like a worldwide leaderboard or like everyone that's using this application leaderboard, but mostly like people that you invite to have a leaderboard on. And I'm mostly into the milestones and maybe fun Easter eggs here and there. Like if you get to level 69, you get the title nice for something. That would be kind of cool. That'd be kind of funny too. So yeah, just gamify your life, I guess. That's the general idea.
All right, thank you. I don't think there were any questions. Yes, Omar, it would be for positive reinforcement. That is the goal. One other thing that I wanted to mention in here was just like the medium for how this might be accomplished. What I had done with a little bit of research is that I was looking to see if there were any like APIs for Quizlet or for, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce the other one, Anki, I'm gonna say. And it doesn't look like there's anything that would be super helpful for this. So with this particular problem would probably either end up being, just as a suggestion, I have no idea. It might be interesting to make this as like a web extension so that it can monitor browsing history and, interact with the page and try and figure out if they're actually studying anything.
I think it might be interesting to, instead of doing it specifically to Quizlet or Anki, maybe it can detect when there's an equation on if it sees like an f of x, it knows that it's a math equation. And for things that it can't detect, we can have a manual option. I prefer to keep it as non-user input as possible, but just like, for things.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a really good problem to explore, to see what ways you can detect this kind of thing, and then set up some sort of storage system that can track progress, either locally or, if you're going to do a leaderboard.
I'm a mechanical engineering major, actually. I'm a freshman too. I want to learn more about programming, so I don't really know that much right now, but just putting it.
That's why we're here.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. Any other ideas? Just go ahead and put them in the chat. Yeah, I think part of the problem or part of the challenge of this one would be trying to figure out ways that you can detect an application. So either interacting with the browser that you're currently in and trying to read the web page for certain things, or if there's other ways of doing it, that would also be something worth exploring. All right. Last suggestion is Julio. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay, good. I'm on the school Wi-Fi, so I'm not sure how good this is. Yep. Okay. So my project idea is to make like a job and internship tracker. So basically, every time you apply for a job or an internship, you keep track of that, keep it safe and stored. And what I was thinking to do with it is kind of do like a web scraping, and so that it could automate the process of applying to different internships. So like the program will try to go over different websites, pull out different applications, and then somehow, apply to those jobs for you. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I saw your comment about the the front end part of it. I wasn't really thinking about it too much about it because I was just thinking maybe I just use Python user interface. And I did the SQL too because I wanted to have like a way of storing all the data about the jobs and such, and also contact information because you can also save info about recruiters or like emails or anybody important that you will talk to.
All right,
And then,
thank you.
And then, oh, sorry, I just wanted to go over there. And then I did the
Yeah,
machine learning
please.
because I kind of wanted to put in some type of analytics in it, kind of like measure how good the success rate is, kind of like that, but it's not necessarily required.
Yeah, that would be very helpful to have. Even analytics just for a specific user, like how many things you've applied to, how many you've got accepted, some basic analytics like that, but also like success, that would also be a really good idea. Yeah, so other things that I think I mentioned down here is I wasn't sure exactly how the interface for the user would be implemented. It sounds like you were planning to maybe just like make it a standalone application, which would be perfectly reasonable. Some other things that I was suggesting, I think, were that either, I don't actually remember what I suggested. If you wanted to make this like as a web app, it would be good to have a front end that's either, one of the common front end technologies, so Flutter, React, JavaScript frameworks, anything like that. There's probably a Python front end, to be honest. I don't know if Suneet might have an idea, but I've never seen anything like that. So that would be another thing that people could potentially work on for this project, making the user interface. And I think that was pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions for Julio? Kimberly says Python does have a UI tool. Unsurprising. I'm sure that there is something.
Yeah, that's
I've
what I
never
was
used it
thinking
personally.
too.
Yeah, that's a perfectly reasonable way of doing it. There's a lot of ways that you could make this happen. All right. If you have any questions that you come up with, please just stick them in the chat. But that's the last. Oh no, sorry, that's not the last one. We have one more. So this is the last idea that was submitted by Kaylee, and I will go ahead and present this for her. So she was submitting something that can run through Rate My Professor and grab ratings from that site and then inject them directly into the class sections page when you're searching for classes in MyUCF. With the idea being that when you're evaluating classes you want to take, it can display if there's a professor listed, information about the professor, and help you decide whether you would want to actually take it with them or not, without having to go through manually to the site and input every single person. So there's no official Rate My Professor API, so that would be something you would have to come up with, some way of interacting with Rate My Professor and pulling data off the site. So it would be another thing that you could potentially use an extension for, so you can interact with the web page itself. And then if you would also potentially maybe want to use an extension so that you can inject some extra HTML into the MyUCF page and then display that information off to the side. And I had a couple suggestions down here. I know it looks really long, but it wasn't actually that many suggestions. One thing that I was asking about was when necessarily the web scraping for Rate My Professor would occur so that you have all that information about each professor. One thing that you could potentially do for this project is set up a process that's hosted somewhere that runs every once in a while, like every couple of days, that can search for the University of Central Florida and all the professors and get updated information about their ratings. And then the extension, when you're in that class page, can just send a request to that backend and pull information for a specific professor. That would be one way of doing it. Another thing you could do, from what I'm just thinking off the top of my head, is you could potentially have the extension itself also do web scraping on the Rate My Professor page. So when you search for a new class and it gets to the page where it lists all the classes, you can have a new tab, open up Rate My Professor, search for those people, grab the data off of the page, and then return to the other tab that's currently open and send all the information back and then display it from there. So there's a couple ways that you could do this. There's probably even ways of doing it without an extension. I think that's probably the easiest way to interact with the page specifically. All right, so I got a couple questions here. I got a question about the sponsored software projects. So sponsored projects is something that we kind of had an idea for very late in the process. So we don't actually have any sponsored projects right now. One of the things that we're planning, we would like to be able to work with other clubs for applications that they would be useful for their purposes, either other engineering clubs or non-engineering clubs. So if we wanted to work with a club that has like a social good purpose, we could potentially provide some of our technical skills for them. Over the next week, I am going to try to reach out to as many clubs as possible and see if there's anything that they would be interested in sponsoring. And when I have that list, if there is a list at all, I will give that to you guys next week when the teams are together, and then you can potentially swap your topic to one of those ideas. And we also might just post some sponsored projects to all of NightHacks going forwards. Another question, actually, that's not a question for you guys, so I will respond to that individually. Question from Enrique. Are you going to create a poll to know people's skill level? That is part of the form, which we are going to cover right now. So this form is going to be posted on the link tree very, very shortly. And this form is the official form for signing up for this program if you're still interested. We need you to fill out this form, at least all the required fields and any other fields that you can fill in, just so that we have enough information to make sure that you're on the right team with the right people. So some of the information that we have in here is just like general information for how we can contact you. So your name, your email, and also your Discord handle. Eventually, we will be putting teams into Discord channels for your specific projects team. So that will also happen next week, and that's why we need your Discord handle. We have a section here for how comfortable you are with programming. If you're, you can pick one of those categories. It doesn't matter if you're specifically in one of the other, just pick something. It's not the end of the world. Suneet, I saw that you unmuted. Do you have anything you want to throw in?
Oh, I was gonna say, I just wanted to make sure that you put the also put the link in the Zoom chat so everyone can easily click it there.
That's yeah, that's a good point. It's not actually open yet. I just want to run through a couple things with the rest of the directors first, and then we'll put it in the link tree and make an announcement for it when it gets released. So that'll be tonight after the meeting.
Okay.
So this is just so that we can get a general idea of how comfortable you are with programming and make sure that we're getting you in the right team. If you have experience with any languages, this would be the place to put it. And then just a general idea of how experienced you are with them so that we can maybe put people together that would help complete a team. Also, if you have any members that you want to work with specifically, if you have any friends or you've talked to someone, now that's the place to do that. This is also not required because we don't expect that everyone does. And then we also have a question here for development interests. So this may not be an extensive list. If it's not, we can actually make another option here. Oh, there is one already, actually. So if you have any specific development interests that you want to do with this program, this would be the place to identify them. So if you specifically want to try and do something front end, you can mark front end here. Or if you want to try and make a game, you can put that here, and we'll try and get people together that either complete the team or want to focus on the same interests. Again, the form is not available yet. We will post it on the link tree and make an announcement as soon as it opens. I just need to confirm that this form is actually finished before we release that. And then this question is for projects that you're interested in working on. So we have a list of all the projects that we just went over. If you want to work on any of those specifically, you can pick the ones that you would be interested in. If you don't want to work on any of them or you don't really care, we have options for that as well. That is totally fine. And if you have another idea that you want to bring up to us in your application, that we can try and put you with people that might have the same interests as that kind of project, then you can put like a document proposal in the form that we will review, just in case you didn't get a chance to submit yours. And then here's where, if you have any specific choices, first or second choice, if you have preferences, here's where you can identify which ones you want to do first and which ones you want to do second. And then if you authored any proposals, this should be a short answer. If you authored any proposals and you want to lead those, this is just where you can identify which ones you led so that we can make sure that you get in that team. If you had multiple ideas, which actually doesn't apply to anyone here, it would only apply to Conroy, but he's not even going to be part of the program, it sounds like. But you could pick one specifically that you want to be in charge of. And then if you have any other information that you want us to know, put it in the question at the bottom. And I think that pretty much covers it. Does anyone have any other questions about the form itself? Are we missing anything? Any questions on how to fill it out while we're still here? Collaborator. Okay, I will add Suneet and Harold to the form. Yes, it will be in the link tree later tonight once we've finished that and just make sure that everything's in here. All right. Seeing no more questions, I will not hold anyone any longer. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. We will try our best to get you guys in teams by next Wednesday. Please submit this form by Monday. We would like to have everything done by Monday night so we can spend Tuesday and Wednesday making up teams. No problem. We're here for as resources. Please send us Discord messages anytime. Any questions about the form, just get that in by Monday night. And we will talk to you guys on Wednesday when we put you in teams. And then we will talk to you on Friday in our first general meeting.
This form should be up within about 10 minutes. So if you just keep an eye on the link tree, you will be able to find this form.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.